Welcome to She Blaze, where we're bringing you cannabis culture from a woman's point of view. And as always, here to elevate the cannabis industry. I'm one of your hosts, Ice Dawson, cannabis socialite.
And I am Dashita Dawson, the weed head.
Hi, sis.
Hey, sis.
On today's episode of She Blaze, the military is really trying it, okay? Texas is banning hemp, and we're going to straight up answer the question, are we in an era of reform or recriminalization?
Hey, well, hey, sis.
Hey, sis. Yes.
How you doing this week?
We doing the week.
We're doing the week, and we made it to another episode of She Blaze, Season 7, Episode 3, keeping it going. If you haven't already caught up, we have now more than 100 episodes, and so you want to check out Season 6. We drop gems there, too, if you need to catch up on where we are in the market. But, I'm excited to share my high of the week, though. Okay. And I think the reason why I'm most excited is because it is showing the progress and the movement of the market itself, and that's why I trekked all the way out to Jersey the other day to shout out my soror, Lushawn Thompson, who celebrated 1 year at her dispensary. Nevaeh Verde celebrates its 1 year anniversary, and very excited about where they're located. It's in Belleville. It's basically the greater New York City area, so it wasn't too far into Jersey to trek. It's near Newark, and it was a beautiful location. I checked it out with the Dank Duchess, another lovely lady of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, and represented. And of course, we bought some cute gear. And I want to shout out my little shirt if you're watching us. She really brought it. It's like got some stuff going on the back. It's got some stuff going on in the front. She brought the foil and the gold honey, and it matches the decor in her beautiful dispensary that has a public-facing bathroom. One thing I'll say about New York versus New Jersey in terms of the dispensary experience, now I can use the bathroom in most dispensaries in New York. Shout out to my previous job and helping a lot of people open. But that's just because I know the owners. In New Jersey, a lot of the dispensaries have an experience where if you do need to use the restroom as a customer, you can actually go inside. So she had a restroom and she had some real deals. We were able to get living soil grown, legal cannabis, which we haven't seen in the New York market yet. And so it was just really cool to be in another market shopping and seeing its progress. And I enjoyed what I picked up.
Okay, that's exciting. Now, the New York market will be a little bit upset with you because there are some brands on the market that has living soil, believe it or not. It's just hard to find.
It is. But I would say it's probably, do I believe them? And, that's, I'll leave that there.
I believe y'all. I believe the living soil I've seen, I believe. But my high of the week is a actual cannabis item. It is Layup lemonade. It's a cannabis drink. Everybody that knows me knows when I go out, a girl loves to have a little Prosecco or Moscato, but in the era of like, maybe I don't want to have alcohol, or you need a good drink for an event. If you don't drink alcohol, Layup is a great alternative. It is 10 milligrams of THC. It's fast acting. It has a lot of sugar, but the sugar is totally worth it if you are looking to enjoy yourself. It's perfect for all of the warmth that's happening. Instead of feeling like a margarita outside, for some people, it might actually feel like a THC drink. And because it is actually the 10 milligrams, you know how much you're getting in a can, which is also really important. And because it's fast acting, it's quick, it's fast, you're high for a second and gone the next. So I really enjoyed it. And I love me some cannabis drinks, as you know. It's a great way to go to a party too. Like, if I'm a Southern Belle, we always bring a gift for the hostess. It's just good etiquette for those who don't know. And these little drinks are perfect to get the party started.
You ain't lying. I mean, I took a taste. I think I like it better than some of the other brands. not even plural. New York's got a little bit of ways to go here in the beverage world. I think I liked it because it didn't have a strong aftertaste, and that's largely because I think it has some natural products that are sweetened by themselves, but not actually added sweetener, which is the
Oh,
difference. That's it. I mean, listen,
okay.
I can't have sugar at like not to the same way that I used to. Ain't now laters and sour pals no more, y'all. Like, but I can have sugar if it's naturally occurring. The same way I want my cannabis to be naturally occurring. My cannabinoids, I would like to find it in the sugar. But at the end of the day, though, I could still only drink a quarter of the can at a time, and that's not enough THC for me. So it did just feel like I was, taking a shot of sugar more so than the THC. I would probably do better with a drink that tastes like that. That's 100 milligrams as opposed to 10 because I can only drink a quarter of the can at a time. So give me 25 milligrams on a little edible, a little drink. I'm gonna be dancing all night.
Yes. Well, I think this is perfect. I think the reason why you're edible pro, okay? Like, don't sleep on your endocannabinoid system when it comes to the edibles because you know how to take it. A lot of people cannot handle more than 10 milligrams of
This is
true
true.
extracted THC because when you think about the edibles you make at home, it has all of the cannabinoids, it's whole plant, and so it's a different vibe when they're extracting the THC and inserting it into the actual product. But listen, we could geek out about some cannabis, okay,
True.
child? We can go back and forth. We have a whole long debates, and this is why we brought She Blaze back. No, I can't help you, darling. Um, this is why we brought She Blaze back because we need to bring back these everyday discussions about cannabis and culture and even products. So
Mhm.
let's get into our hot topics and
Yes.
we'll circle back on another episode on breaking down the cannabis products for y'all,
Okay.
especially in the New York market. But believe it or not, hot topic number one is about the military. I know, very surprised, and not the veterans, child. This is for the people that's looking to enlist in the military. So the military is releasing a bunch of different information. As you know, America is engaged in some quite interesting politics around the world. So the military has to match where we are today, and where we are is most of the states in the country have some form of cannabis legalized. And so the military is basically easing some of its restrictions for people who decide to enlist in the military. And one of the restrictions is they have the people who have like cannabis violations or things on their record with cannabis, they are able to enlist in the military as well. Now, before it was a long process, they had to get some type of letter that would allow them to enlist in the military with cannabis on their record. But now it is basically like, nope, even if you got cannabis on your welcome, come one, come all.
Well, I'm not that impressed. It just sounds like they're trying to get people in the military. We're at war. So to me, they're like, listen, we can't be like categorically keeping mofos out simply because they've been arrested one, maybe two times for cannabis, especially when we've done millions and millions of arrests all over the country at the federal and the state level. Like, this is chess, not checkers. And so, of course, am I surprised that they also were essentially like, now y'all could get into the military, but when you get here, please do not bring the reefer. It's unfortunate because these are the very people that actually need it the most. It's interesting because in Israel, their military is actually allowed to use cannabis, medical cannabis, and they can get a prescription. Whereas here in America, the U.S. military has already said without a shadow of a doubt that they do not recognize any medical cannabis cards. You cannot get any special treatment related to VA. In fact, you could lose your benefits, which a lot of veterans have pointed out. They have a very strong anti-cannabis stance still, despite the fact that the Health and Human Services at the federal level is like, wait up, it's actually medical, and we might need to reschedule it. But they haven't budged. So this is just Trump trying to get more people for the military. Like,
Oh, exactly. Yawn.
next.
But all right, next on the docket. No, I'm just kidding. But they're dropping this 420. No, They're dropping this 420, and so that's exciting. And they also up the age for the people who are allowed to enlist. So when you say Trump just wants people for the military, that's the part that I get. So we just wanted to up.
What's the new ceiling for how when you know how old you're going to be
So
to
previous,
enlist?
you were they cut the cutoff age for enlisting in the military was 35. Now it is 42, darling. So they're like, if you got Megan Maxwell knees, you are welcome to come in the military. You might be a E1, P1, whatever they are when they first enter, but you can come in here. And I can't wait to see some of these older people go ahead and fight in the military. As far as I'm concerned, I know we got a podcast, but to the men, particularly the people with the podcast, put down the mic and pick up the military. That's all.
I'm not sending anybody to the military, but like I'm older than this cutoff age, and let me just be clear. Once again, that feels like a very pointed, strategic recruitment strategy because the people that I see still popping and locking, you named Megan and Maxwell, two black folk. So just then we add Latinos in there with the way we was dancing to Bad Bunny. Let's be clear, they're targeting a specific population when they made that increase, y'all, and we know it. And I hope y'all steer clear of it. Luckily, that's just enlisting, but we still have to. If you have young men that are between the ages of 18 and 25, the selection service that automatically you get registered for when you get your driver's license is a real thing. Those things that happen when people have talked about how folks have been drafted. We haven't really seen a draft in decades and decades. I feel like it might have been Muhammad Ali times, right? And so this is unfortunate, but these are little signs that we just have to be mindful of. And yeah, right now the military doesn't support cannabis. It doesn't support any of the things that probably are best for people who are going to enter that environment, including taking care of your endocannabinoid system. It's like, what? No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you are right. I got a lot to say, but I like to stay apolitical. So let's move on to another political tactic that people are using within our government to really put a target on people. So we're gonna take us down to the great state of Texas, honey. They say things are bigger in Texas, and to be honest, they do make a lot of things bigger, as well as their reaction to this hemp. They're basically having some new hemp rules go into effect. We had this is gonna roll back to a previous episode that we have in our undone. So we had a couple seasons ago, we had the Delta 8 great debate. And we talked, yes. I mean, come on, molecular biologists, help us
Hey.
out. And so you broke it down to us how they was creating Delta 8, what it is, what it do, what it is. So I'll link that in the comments. But because of this whole hemp craze of intoxicating hemp, which is what we described as far as Delta 8 cannabinoids that they are creating from hemp or really pulling out of the hemp to produce hemp products. But they also had smokable hemp. A lot of people call it CBD. We'll keep you guys posted on that because there's some science behind there you guys are missing. But March 31st goes into the effect of Texas is now banning hemp, smokable hemp, March 31st. So if you were in Texas rolling your CBD, there's none of that allowed anymore. What also go into effect is they're increasing the licensing fee. Previously in the beginning, they hardly had a licensing fee. 5 years later, 6 years later, we're now seeing a licensing fee that's going with it. So they're raising it even more. People are talking about this will now eliminate them even wanting to get a hemp license because, child, if they ain't allowed to smokable hemp, that's 60-70% of their profit margins.
So listen, I have a lot to say as well. This could in of itself be a main topic. First of all, let's talk about the science, not sciencing. We now have people advertising THCA flower. Okay, you can't, if you're listening to us and you can't see my face, I'm aghast because first of all flour, no matter whether it's coming from the hemp side or the marijuana side, all flour starts off as carboxylated with the A, so it's all THCA, all flour. Every like so the fact that that's what they're marketing seems real crazy to me. It's like feeding us fried chicken in the hood from the Chinese food restaurant, right? There's an element of you, it's still weed. It's just weed. It's just weed. And so once the operators stop trying to get over on that part, I think we might have slightly better outcomes, but I think it's very hard in a Texas regardless when you're going to try to tell the truth. But they've been lying over there in some ways around what the hemp derived area looks like. You have a part of it that is synthetic, right? Which is we made a lot of CBD out of hemp. We extracted it. We made it into an isolate. And then we made that in a lab into Delta 8. And then we started making products, infusing products, but also maybe sprinkling on regular flour, calling that Delta 8 flour. That may have actually been a large part of the products. But a large part of the products are just hemp-derived flour. And hemp-derived flour is like every other flower, abundant in THCA, if it has THC in it, right? And then when you smoke it, it removes the A, and that is part of the challenge. In the case of hemp, it had to be less than a certain amount, right? I think that at the time they'd done some work where maybe it might have been up to 1%. It's not just the 0.3% in Texas, and now they're kind of breaking it back down. But those percentages that are between 1 and 10 are very important. We're totally missing out on that in this market of America because we really acting like it's either A or B, and it's like everything else is a spectrum. Well, cannabis is on a spectrum, and we've been only operating for the most part at two ends of the spectrum. And where the benefit of the plant comes from is when we start operating within the full spectrum, and pun intended, and I think we'll get better results. But I think that that's the case whether we're pursuing political things or regulatory licensing things or just educational. We have to tell the story of the whole plant and stop trying to divide it in this way because it's nonsensical. So when I read the articles that you sent over for, when we prep, and I was just like, why are we THC flower, THCA flower? And then in that case, they might be sprinkling on it too.
Seriously, I mean, I definitely am so glad you brought that down because remember I sent you the ad because it was the ad on like my YouTube or something. I sent you an ad. You said, "Child, what is this?" You was like, "This don't make no sense. Are they selling cannabis or are they selling hemp?" You know what I mean? So it's very interesting how they don't know the science, and media and marketing is now allowing some of these loopholes, right? Because it's hemp, so you can market it. Because if you know anything about cannabis, THC, a lot of times, especially in a lot of states, it's not allowed traditional media advertising opportunities, but hemp is. And so that THC, we're gonna have to clip that because baby, that was good.
Clip it.
But really, like with them now raising the entry level and the licensing level, the operating level within Texas to be able to do hemp products, do you think they are signaling something else in regard to like, okay, you can't have smokable hemp products, but we can still have hemp? And industrial hemp is a real thing. Are they now signaling to people like, okay, none of this intoxicating hemp, but y'all can still do hemp and y'all got to be some of the big players in order to do it?
I think it's always an attempt to push it towards big players to control a market. So I don't know that it's necessarily about pushing it towards industrial hemp, but if you starve a market of what it is a good percentage of its sales, which is what a lot of the articles are saying, smokable hemp is a good percentage of the sales still, because at the end of the day, like on the marijuana side, people still want to smoke cannabis, period, and it's all cannabis. And so you can anticipate that if you you have a good market where they're actually growing hemp and there's good flower in the market, because hemp flower is very abundant in cannabinoids. You got to grow it for the cannabinoid you want it to be abundant in. It can be a very nice consumption experience. And so that also can be used to, wean yourself off of smoking cigarettes, which we're seeing some of that come out of Texas as well. It's about consumer behavior shifting to something a little bit more, a little bit better for them. And that being said, people are choosing it more. It's a good category, but if you remove the category, then the little guys, they will not survive. They will not survive, and they will not be able to make this little jump or leap that access now point has now shifted. So they did two things. They took out a very important driver of sales, and then they shifted where the starting pole would be. It's not, it's not checkers, it's chess. And that is exactly how you start to eliminate these mom and pop or little man type of, markets where it's so segmented, and you have to regulate a lot. Instead, you have a lot less to regulate, so it appears in licenses, but that also means more likelihood for collusion and corruption, even including the government.
Well, we know that the government do not mind getting a side check off somebody else, okay?
Clip that, okay? Clip it.
But Texas, y'all always up to something. Y'all need hobbies or something. I don't know what y'all need, but y'all struggling out there, for sure. But anyway, make sure you guys are subscribing, liking the video. Tell us what you think. We love putting comments on the screen. We love having comments in, if you're a part of the replay crew, because we come back and some people be like, we don't read the comments, baby. These Dawson girls, we reading the comments, darling, and we gonna read you back. So definitely drop your opinion in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed to us at the We Head and Company on YouTube, and follow us on Instagram at she_blaze.
Hey.
And yes, and let's get into our third hot topic, which congratulations, it's the anniversary.
It's the anniversary. Hey.
Yes, we have came on the New York state cannabis anniversary. We're what, 5 years in the game right now?
I like, blow my mind. But blow my mind. 5 years.
Right.
Go ahead, New York.
I know. Remember when we entered like a decade ago and they were like, New York's not going to legalize to 2025?
Yeah, everybody was talking a lot of junk, and it was a hard journey. I'm glad we participated. We helped pioneer it, and I'm glad we're still involved. And that is why it's so exciting to see us reach it. It doesn't mean that it was not like clawing and scratching. There's a lot of bruises up in this mofo, but we knew New York was going to be tough. We knew it was going to be tough, and as tough as it was to legalize, the majority leader, Crystal Peoples-Stokes, the mother of the marijuana movement, one of them, Senator Liz Kruger being the other, because it takes both houses to do business for real in this state. They held this for about 13 years before it started to really pick up traction. So it was a while even before we got involved. But I think the science as element made a big difference. The social justice element made a huge difference. And yeah, I'm happy, and I'm also very proud. But we still got a lot of work to do.
Definitely. Well, before we get into the work we got to do, because you love giving people work. What
you are so shady.
I mean, it's not. It's fun shade.
I know, but it's true. Okay, whatever. I get to work.
You do, and you pay people, because there's a lot of people that don't be paying nobody. You want everybody to work. You will pay them for work, even if they're not doing the work. It's crazy. You wouldn't believe the stories we have. However, in cannabis, as far as New York State, our current governor, Kathy Hochul, is signing off on, reminding us that it's our 5th year, but let's take it back and pull the receipts and timelines. It was not her who legalized cannabis. It was Andrew Cuomo, who also got out of governor and thought he was going to be the mayor of New York City. I don't know how that worked, but he actually was the person that signed the MRTA, which stands for Marijuana with a H, Regulation and Taxation Act. I mean,
It is with an H.
it's marijuana with an H. You know,
Mhm.
sometimes it's got a H, a J, a Z. You know, people really just make up how they want to spell this word, and who am I to judge? But it also established adult use cannabis here in the state, as well as the Office of Cannabis Management. And like you said, it was all about the equity. And baby, she released a statement about it, and she was like, "Yes, we're doing amazing things." Even though, wasn't it last year she manufactured an issue within the cannabis industry that was never an issue?
Factual.
Yeah, so she's taking all the praises. She wants all the applause,
She
all the
does.
hand claps, all the bows. Because, honey, she is out there listing all the things that she has done as far as the 3.3 billion in total sales, 600 licensed dispensaries nationwide. They also have well, altogether they have over 2,000 adult use licenses issued statewide. Sorry,
Statewide.
not
Okay.
nation. I'm like, well, it takes a nation, but no, statewide, they have over 2,000 licenses within the state 5 years later, which honestly, for somebody from us coming 10 licenses pre the MRTA to over 2,000 5 years later is crazy. Like, please remember, before we legalized adult use, we only had 10 licenses in the medical marijuana industry, and there was no smokable flower.
Yes.
So
It was a trash market. It kind of is still not that great, New York medical, but we can do a hot topic on that. Congratulations to New York State, because the truth of the matter is we've done a lot in a shorter period of time. A lot of people, will be critical. I will be critical of New York, but there are some things we get to celebrate. We get to be grateful. We get to actually pull it out as good, because what else are we going to have as a foundation to keep building on other than some of the wins? We didn't get all of the wins, though. We took some L's, and the W's in particular would be, we didn't get to open the market really until 2023. We had a handful of stores up until 2023. And so when we say $3.3 billion, we're talking about $3.3 billion over the last 3 years or so, and maybe more, closer to 2.5 years. We didn't get a new executive director appointed to this role until October of 2021. So while we passed this in March, which is where we are, March 31st, 2021, we didn't see Chris get appointed until October. That is a very long delay for a brand spanking new agency that's supposed to be such a critical thing. And largely that happened because Cuomo got ousted before his term was over, and his lieutenant governor, Governor Hochul, the now Governor Hochul, took over. So it's so important to know the history enough to be able to give props where props is due. And between that October 2021 and essentially the February of 2022, which is a very short period in government, Chris released licensing for the cultivators and the processor. It was limited to just the hemp licensees in that area. A new legislation was even signed by the Senate and the Assembly and signed by the governor in order to facilitate that. They created the CARD, the Conditional Adult Use Retail Dispensary license, and then they issued a new application by August 2022. This is something he did all within less than a year of him being in the role. Again, a bit unheard of. Took some L's on some of these things because we're moving so fast, we're actually not filling in all the gaps, right? Well, the gap started in 2023. We had an injunction that lasted and impacted 9 months on the office, on its ability to continue to review and approve licenses. So again, we're not talking about an easy path forward. If we were looking at this like this is the NCAA and this was a tournament and some people are going for the championship, it's like they were playing the number one seed every single round and being the underdog and getting over the rounds. We're now on the third executive director, still acting, but seeming like we will get a confirmation from the Senate. The second one pretty much didn't do anything. So, New York has overcome a lot of real attacks on the ability needed to start with equity first. And we've still been able to deliver a very, very good start, bigger than a lot of the other markets that started around us, some of them with the same premise. We got to give props where props is due. We have tripled the number of Black licensees in the country with the licensing efforts of New York. That's no single fate. Now, the big thing we got to work on is operationalize. I won't get to the work, but that number is important because while people talk junk, all these other markets didn't even have any Black or brown licensees. It definitely also didn't have justice impacted. That is a new concept, and we were the ones to deliver it. But it got soured and it got turned left, and there are ways that we have to fix that. But I'll be honest, when I look at New York's market, while Hochul is trying to take a bow, I would say to the equity licensees, to the small farmers, y'all got to take a bow because y'all did that. Equity delivered the market. The people in the card licensing program, they stepped up and they did their part. They followed all the rules. But now it's time for the state to deliver on the equity that was promised from the beginning.
All right. Okay. Well, you know me. I love a bunch of timelines and receipts. And so we definitely gonna have to clip that into something because darling, they didn't even know. And yes, we do have the most Black and brown license holders, maybe even operational if we really look through the like small
Operational
print.
too. It's just not enough of them are operational, right? It's not
Right.
converting fast enough for sure.
I mean, shoot, it's only been 5 years. Dang, it still takes 10 months to bake a baby.
It does. And the truth is,
But
even the oldest dispensaries are celebrating 2 years. Soon celebrating 3 years will be the like I said, the Housing Works, which was the first dispensary to open. They'll be celebrating 4 years at the end of this year. They were in December 2022, but it was a forced issue, and it was only because Hochul decided to say that we would have the market open by the end of the year. And then there was very little openings after that, and it was very sporadic. You can't say, oh, well, there were 5 stores open, so we count the time. It's like, when did we get a critical mass of stores opening? To be real, that wasn't until the top of 2024 when I actually started seeing 3 digits, right? And then New York City was actually trending behind the more than 50% that it should have been. We represented 60% of the applications, but was trending around 48, 49% of the actual openings. So we got some work to do. I am very excited to be at the 600th opening. It's in the Bronx. It's going to be hosted by the Bronx Cannabis Hub. They were really instrumental in ensuring that licensees, card licensees in particular, got their applications in. This was before Cannabis NYC, as my former office, actually opened. And it's great to see that they're going to be there. But new executive director, John Kagia, will be there. We'll probably see some familiar folks that helped build this industry, because it's something that we all should be celebrating. But it doesn't mean you celebrate so much that you don't take your notes and start applying them accordingly.
okay, well, drop the mic because baby, that is not our main topic. It is just a hot topic, and that was our third hot topic of today's episode. So, because we're New Yorkers, so we definitely have to celebrate this monumental thing. But honestly, 5 years in to legalization in what some might consider the capital of America, darling. The way some of the propaganda videos is they acting like we the capital of America. New York is not. That's DC. DC.
Yes.
Okay, they the capital of America. We are just merely the coolest part of America. So for the record, but let's get into our main hot topic because it definitely feeling like we're in a new era, especially because of the 2020s and all that we've been through. But in terms of cannabis, is this an era of reform or recriminalization? And so I really wanted us to get into it quickly because honestly, cannabis was getting into reform, taking a trajectory before legalization through the media. Some of the biggest media outlets supported cannabis. They quoted cannabis. They were learning about how they were doing it on the West Coast and how to bring some of that energy over here on the East Coast, which is a really big part of the country. It even New York sparked some other states to legalize cannabis as well. But 5 years later, it seems like the media is turning on us. We're getting a lot of articles, especially out of the New York Times, that are quoting things that honestly we had never seen before in this era. We're seeing a lot of CNNs where they used to have, doctors coming on and talking about the medicinal benefits of cannabis. Now we having them come and backtrack a little bit on something like a CNN, where other types of people get their news from. So I really wanted to get your thoughts around like the misrepresentation of cannabis in the media, and how is this helping us?
So, I do think the right question is it reform or recriminalization? And of course, we have to talk about misrepresentation in media because it's strategy in the effort to recriminalize. Unfortunately, I feel like we have shifted into an era of conservative backlash post George Floyd. It has only been enhanced by the current administration, and the divisions are very, very clear. And it's manifesting itself in cannabis like it is in every other industry probably. Cannabis happens to be an infant industry and still without federal legalization, so the impact can be quite significant and probably more impactful than maybe some of the more traditional or older industries. But media is where this starts. Like when we think about Reefer Madness is actually a depiction of what was provided during that time period, the 1920s and the 1930s, essentially giving really propaganda through media to demonstrate the ills of cannabis. This is where the words devil's lettuce came from. That was a whole circulation that was being put out by Harry Anslinger. And then the law changed, right? Sentiment has to change first and then the law changes. Where it's been for the last decade since we've been in the industry is that actually the sentiment on cannabis as medicine specifically is bipartisan. We've had to discuss and educate and lobby Republican, where there is nothing else that I agree with on their particular political positions. But cannabis legalization is something I can agree with. Cannabis medical legalization the right way is something I agree with. And so this has been one of those areas where more than 65% of the United States citizens have, through polling, demonstrated that they believe that this should be legalized. The vast majority of the industry right now is in states that are, northern and Midwest. And so I look at the U.S. South as a little concerning because they lead the way with the conservative thinking as well. But these are outlets, like you said, that in the past, even as recent as 2018, 2020, you would see people like the Doctors Knoxes on Good Day America and CNN, and they'd be talking about the fact that cannabis is medicinal. And there's a lot of ways that people can utilize it. And now we have recently, like you said, had people talking about it doesn't help mental health. It doesn't help mental health issues. Are you bugging? The top 3 reasons people shop cannabis adult use is sleep pain and anxiety, and the order changes depending on the time of year. And anxiety is a big part of your mental health. Anxiety is a big part of people who are establishing or having challenges with mental health and are establishing regimens to help resolve it. We have a lot of anxiety in Gen Z, right? Like that is a very important thing to note as well. I know I'm a parent to Gen Z. They come high anxiety. They've witnessed a lot. They're witnessing a lot, literally watching leaders of 2 different worlds kind of doing a video game depiction of war. That's actually happening. So, I say all that to say it's really sad when we see media start to go to the pay to play. We have a lot of conservative groups like Smart Approaches to Marijuana, and now there's like Women for Smart Approaches to Marijuana. Like they was recently on my LinkedIn. Like, I'm not sure I'm your girl. I'm not sure, because the truth of the matter is the approaches that have been in the past, like saying we should raise taxes in order for us to keep people from wanting to consume cannabis, is like, you're bugging. It is not alcohol. This isn't sugar. This isn't, which is the devil, by the way, in the human body. You shouldn't be putting taxes like it's just a vice and we want to prevent it. That is outdated and no longer applies, especially when adult use is an access point for people to get sleep pain and anxiety. You wouldn't raise the taxes on an Advil or ibuprofen. It's like,
Well, actually, they would. Remember the diabetes? They had made the insulin $200, and people will die without that. So
you're
you
right,
know,
but that was when they're trying to force you to buy a certain brand. So that's a different type of thing. Totally could see that happening in our market where basically rescheduling means pharmaceuticals can grow cannabis. They clamp down on enforcement on the state levels, and the programs, albeit flawed, but they are better that they're growing it than a pharmaceutical company. And then, yeah, if they make it like super high tax, they're saying is to prevent it, to your point. Meanwhile, point you back in the direction of where your insurance will cover, because insurance does not cover cannabis right now. Right. And it would
yes,
cover an FDA approved pharmaceutical drug that is under a Schedule 3. So it's like it's a chess game again. That's the theme. And unfortunately, it is not towards reform. It's like reform with a different type of branding. It's just recriminalization. It's not actual reform.
yes, and but I'm saying that as they find out, they've always known there was medicinal benefits. They've always known that
Yes.
it was again before prohibition. Can all mostly most medical products or even like cold medicines had cannabis in it, right? It was used as a medical product. Excuse
Hey,
me.
hey,
Excuse
Cray
me.
J.
Excuse me. Stop it. Stop it.
Gotta love our nephew always will make an appearance. Like that's gonna be the best part about season 7. He's gonna be 15, 16. I'll be like, let me show you something. Let TT Ma show you something right quick. um,
And he thinks it's a game. It's like
he really
it's
does. I
not a
mean,
game.
it's not a game. That is
Yes,
funny.
and he's like, I want to be on the light. No, no, you don't.
No,
Goodbye.
you don't.
Uh, 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 uh,
Um, but
but
yes, you're right. I think we're struggling with that, and we've got so many other things to fight. But the first thing we need to fight is the narrative. Do not let narratives lie just to legalize. Don't let narratives lie. Like that's what it goes back to the Texas hemp ban. Like we're allowing this narrative of THCA to lie, and I'm like, I'm not understanding why we're doing it. To be honest, I think that's just an example of misrepresentation, using science in a wrong way. And the same thing is this, for these like studies. Can I also just say, because I said that on the Lurie Daniel Favor show on Sirius Urban View channel 126. I do the Flower to the People segment. Shout out to Lurie. But I talked about this with her, and one of the things that I'll just point out is like, these studies be like 25 people in the clinical studies. You want to make a determination for 25 million or 250 million. We talk about the full population of America is actually closer to 350 million. But the fact of the matter is, you want to make that determination on 25 people. Are you bugging right now? When we in just the cannabis industry, the 12 since 2012 that Colorado has been in existence, and they collect a lot of data. We know that people are using it for anxiety. They've done a lot of local clinical studies, and because you're from some highly regarded, in quotes, this is the standard. They called it the gold standard. I was like, yuck, like what? Gold standard of who? For
right,
what?
right.
And
Well,
how they consuming it? It was very. I'm struggling, and you're right. New York is doing it more, like with the New York Times. I don't like that they still call it recreational. That's not what we legalized. The law says it very clearly. It says adult use. We literally don't use the word recreational anywhere in that MRTA.
yes, because like a lot of things that are nuanced, it is a perspective of cannabis that we create, like people in the industry created as nuance, right? Like after all these recreational states on the West Coast, bringing it back to the East Coast where we know recreational centers and areas actually involve children, we're going to call it what it is because alcohol is permitted. Adult activities, of the S and X kind are permitted. Those are adult activities. Alcohol is an adult beverage, so cannabis just would fall in those adult realms, and that's why adult use cannabis is very important. So I do think
I
it's
think
great.
it's important too, but even as you use the example of the S and the X and the alcohol, those are considered vices. And while they probably have, as far as like being able to balance maybe a stressful life, some use, right? Cannabis actually is helping you balance your endocannabinoid system. And I do think that that is important for us to recognize that adults should have the right to use it however they need to, spiritually, socially, medicinally, nutritionally, because you could literally put this raw plant in a blender with your smoothie and create a nice experience for yourself with that THCA that we talked about earlier, full circle moment. But like the fact of the matter is, like, I just think there's so much more sophistication, and we're literally fumbling it when we allow the good of potentially legalizing or changing the law, but under really, really poor narrative. And this narrative, we have to debunk it right away. I want to shout out Parabola Center and Ohio University School of Law. I think that's the Moritz School of Law. CRCC has been published there, and a lot of people have done a lot of work on cannabis research and published there, and they were able to write a rebuttal around some of the crazy things that were in the New York Times article, to which they sent to the editorial team there, and there was a republish. So we have to keep fighting back, and sometimes you fight the fire with the fire, but also just see why they're doing it. It's all connected. The Texas ban hemp is connected to this media misrepresentation, is connected to rescheduling.
Yes. And then misrepresentation, to your point, is in terms of like trying to get people to stop cannabis. That's why they were well, maybe some of the taxes on the West Coast, why they were trying to, create high taxes, because in episode 2 of season 7 we talked about the taxes in cannabis, in this excise tax. I had not ever really had heard of. And so one of the articles that the New York Times editorial board, these are op-eds too, like, for the record, they're op-eds, they're not scientific research papers, like they're not law papers like the ones you just referenced with the Parabola Center, with
Mm-hmm.
the Ohio said. These are people's
Opinion.
opinions. And
Uh-huh.
like our grandma always said, opinions are like a-holes, and everyone has one.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's one of those things where another opinion came out at the New York Times, basically saying, hey, if we price this really high, and high taxes like we did in tobacco, and if you know anything about New York, cigarettes are $1 million up here. There are no vape e-cigarettes really hardly anymore, or vape flavors. They're kinning cannabis to that too. They're like, hey, if you make these taxes really high, it's gonna limit the amount of people using it. But then we see that the taxes don't deter people from using cannabis, right?
They don't. And here's the thing, the West Coast, they knew that already too. They're just being greedy. Like the West Coast, Washington having a 37% tax, they was like, listen, we're going to make money off of this from the tourists because they're going to be thirsty for it. That was because they were one of the first states to legalize, and they sure did. But now that you got East Coast fully stacked across the board, up and down the East Coast corridor, Washington is suffering as a result. California made the same mistake. None of those tax revenues, by the way, have made themselves a designation for communities disproportionately impacted or reinvestment back into the community. That didn't happen until the local level at Oakland. So it's like we have reasons for wanting the taxes to actually be there because they have a good use back into the coffers of the state or the local jurisdiction, especially if it's going to go back to the communities they were over policing and disinvesting in, right? When they were, criminalizing cannabis. But generally speaking, it isn't what happened on the West Coast. It didn't change people wanting to consume. And on the East Coast, I think they were a little bit more tempered with the taxes, and the rates are decent. However, it's still the case that we're still struggling to get the money out to the communities that they need to be at. So we got to move a little bit faster on getting the benefit, because if recriminalization actually does happen, which again we're trying to prevent at every level, we've got to know that we're not going to they're going to change the rules on the cannabis tax revenue as well, because now they don't have a reason to fix a crime or fix a harm, rather, that they did from criminalization if there's going to be new criminalization. It just It's a tough position to be in.
Yes, and the goalpost seems to keep on moving, doggone it.
It does.
But this is why She Blazes here, honey, because we are striking down the myths. We are debunking some of the old thinking and the old guard's way of cannabis. And we're also reading the tea leaves for you guys so you can be prepared on how you will still consume cannabis in the future as we're up against some big names, New York Times used to be on our side. CNN was on our side. MSNBC was on our side. Now, some of these places we can't even get real news from in that way. So
Not
I
at
just
all.
so just
Do not
stay
know it.
conscious. Yes, yes, yes. We do know. We got more coming down the pipeline this season, where we will go into new products in the cannabis industry or how to read the products in the cannabis industry because it doesn't feel like a lot of new products are coming out. It seems like people are doing the same thing over again. So, you know, that's for a different episode. We're also going to bring some guests on. So drop some comments on who would y'all like to see within the industry. And you already know your girls, we like to stay close to the streets. So we'll definitely have some audience come and drop their opinions later on in the season. So that's going to be exciting.
Yes, I love the momentum we're building. We still got our fourth wall up. So, of course, we still have to make a call for producers and supporters as we get this back and running. But I'm glad we're back. We back. She Blazes back. Hey,
Yes, welcome
episode
back.
3.
Welcome back. Yes, episode 3. And we answering and letting y'all know they're trying to recriminalize us. They're not trying to reform us. And so we got to hold the wall and hold the line and let them know that, cannabis is free. Continue to let it be free.
It could be freer, in fact. So it's like hold the wall and still push.
Yeah.
Okay, because we
Well,
haven't gotten to the point where it's actually free. That's a work conversation, though. Okay, so we'll get that on the next episode.
I know that's right. Well, Dashita, you told us a little bit about what you're doing. Cannabis month is coming up next week, y'all. Next time y'all see us, it'll be April.
That's facts, actually. Yes, yes.
And that is National Cannabis Awareness Month for those who do not know. Now you know. So drop some hints on where you'll be or what you're doing. And let's get out of here and enjoy our Saturday.
Well, I like I said, I'm going to be at the 600th store opening in the Bronx. I'm really excited about that coming up next week on the 31st, though. So just before April. Once April gets going, to be truthful, I'm really excited because my nephew, like through a soror sister relationship, is actually up for being drafted in the NFL, and so I'm gonna be headed down to Philadelphia. I'll probably have some meetings as well to make the work also match the play, but going to be celebrating him. So just shouting out the Eric the Freak Gentry, who is now on his way to the NFL. To be honest, just a prediction is looking like he might get drafted by the Cowboys, which is crazy because she's hella Phillies, Eagles, all of that. And if you know, the Eagles don't like the Cowboys, but she will wear whatever jersey her son is wearing, child. But yeah, I also have a lobby day coming up, and I'm real thrilled to support that. It's on Tuesday, April 28th. More information will be released, and we've been sharing it on She Blaze on our Instagram. You can follow me at the Weedhead Code, TheWeedheadCo, and that's on Instagram. I'm on Twitter and I'm on TikTok, the other T's or whatever, but I'm not there as often. More Instagram's my home right now.
Child, we're gonna have to put you a banner up. I'm like, you spelling it ain't no banner. All right, well, that's why we're looking for
I've been
producers.
practicing spelling it on Sirius Radio. I literally have to do it all the time. And legit, every time I do flowers to the people, I get like another 100 followers. So people is listening. They know how to spell the weed head, and you just add the CO at the end.
All right, child. I know that's right. Well, definitely follow at she_blaze. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube so you can see when we're going live, right? So the We Head and Company is actually our YouTube, and follow us on Instagram just through the banner up there. And girl, this has been a great episode. I'm super, super excited to keep the conversation going down below. So make sure you guys drop your thoughts below, and we're gonna get out of here.
Yes, and you know what? I'm like, oh my gosh, we're almost at an hour, but it was a real chatty patty Saturday for us. Thank you, Ice, for finding all the tea. It's been very interesting. I will see you next week.
All right, bye, sis.
Bye, sis.